Hello viewers, welcome to yet another edition of Mobility Conversations. Today we are going to speak to Mr. Satish Sundaresan, Managing Director India and Chief Strategy Officer Elektrobit. Satish, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Very nice to see you.
Thank you, same here. I would like to ask you about the year that went by. How was it? How was CY23?
So the industry was, let's say, a bit strange. So we had good spells in the automotive industry, and there were also spells where things weren't as great as it could have been. I think it's because the industry is in some form of a transformation. From an Elektrobit perspective, it was a difficult year given the industry slowdown as such. However, with regards to India, we are quite excited because firstly, it was a year where we could keep, let's say, more people in-house as compared to how it was a couple of years ago. So attrition was lower. We are also engaging with a lot of potentially new segment of customers, so it is very exciting for us, and we were able to retain great place to work, at least in India. So we were quite satisfied with the year 2023, and we're really looking forward to how 24 will turn out to be.
I'm going to ask you that. How is it going to be?
I think the first aspect is 2024 again gives you mixed emotions. So as part of a larger family, we have certain other responsibilities to cater to as well. And because we are part of a tier 1 family and the tier 1 setup is itself transforming itself in the automotive industry, I think there will be a wait and watch approach. But we are excited because, like I said, we have completed some analysis on not just what customers to work on, what portfolios to provide, but more importantly, what can we do beyond our traditional set of customers. So we are quite excited about the year. And we have some very interesting product launches coming globally. So it will be an interesting year where we'll try to step out of the traditional automotive way of doing embedded software. So let's see.
Some tier 1 companies, they were very vocal about seeking collaboration with their peers on working middleware. So how does Elektrobit see this evolution?
So I'll start with the, let's say, a top-down approach. So firstly, at an OEM, you have this question of what do I build as software internally and what do I want to give out. So there's that dilemma at the first step. Then there is the role of the tier 1 itself, which is potentially being questioned. What I mean by that is, should now a tier 1 focus on providing systems, which means a lot of software intelligence with the advent of the software defined vehicle? Do you want to do it? Are you capable to do it? Or what I call brick and mortar, or certain other aspects of the industry call it, I think, build to print. I think that's the term. And what we mean by that is contract manufacturing. So instead of being a tier 1, we decide that we only want to be in contract manufacturing, which means no intelligence, all the intelligence comes from outside. Now, whichever way the tier 1 wants to go forward, getting software competence is not going to be easy. So for example, we do this XYZ graph. So on the x-axis, we talk about software as a strategy and how good companies are. And on the y-axis, we talk about what is the capability to do it in-house. And of course, the z-axis is how much money does the company want to spend on R&D. Now, if you have a low software strategy and a low competence, you need help. If you have a high software strategy score, but you have a low in-house capability, you need help. You have to collaborate. And if you go to the other extreme where you have very high software strategy score and very high in-house capability as well, you still have a growing amount of software value inside the car. And that number is increasing every year. So you have to look for talent outside, because in that case, with a growing R&D spend, you need to acquire more talent. So whichever way you look at it, you need help in terms of software expertise, and this is where, for organizations like Elektrobit, this is an opportunity. So we need to now prioritize what kind of markets or customers or portfolios we want to be in, and then provide expertise. So I believe it's an interesting time. It is not just going to be a cost race. So this is the caveat that we use, which is why we need to figure out where do we want to play. But it is an interesting opportunity, because like you rightly said in the question, collaboration seems to be the only way forward. Just doing it completely in-house is not going to be the answer, especially if you are cash strapped.
Okay, that means being dynamic and nimble-footed to address the volatile market?
Absolutely, absolutely. You need to figure out horses for courses. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, great. My understanding about the middleware is like a sandwich where the sandwich gets the name and then the taste based on what is being filled between the bread slices. The same way, how Elektrobit will change or probably evolve its technology based on the evolving technologies in the automotive industry.
Okay, so a very interesting analogy, sandwich. In a sandwich, of course, the middleware provides the flavor. Yeah? So it's the bread that remains not exactly constant, but similar. So in the automotive software world, it's the middleware that helps you identify how stable your system might be, how safe will it be, what kind of functions can you add at real time, and how does the middleware interact with the hardware to a point where your hardware and your middleware can sustain the life cycle of the vehicle. Okay. So from that perspective, middleware is the decision maker of what can be sustained in a system or not. And the difficult part is that the middleware is what you typically don't want to pay for, unlike the sandwich. Okay. So because you typically it's not the bread that you pay for the filling inside. Yeah. So likewise, middleware is considered to be more non-differentiating. In a business financial aspect, you could also extend it and exaggerate it, call it commodity. But that really is the pipeline which lets you implement the functions that might be needed. So it's a very important aspect. And that's where potentially collaborations will need to be strengthened. There are companies which believe that they can do it completely in-house, but it is easier said than, it's not as easy as it seems. So implementing standards of your own, having a platform approach. So you have to work with companies which have that experience and expertise and having done it, let's say, multiple decades. And that's what Elektrobit brings to the table.
Okay, great, interesting. See, I was talking to a lot of tier 1 companies and even OEMs, and there is a thing about the low code and then no code. How is it affecting? Most of them say that since automotive is high security and safety critical, then it won't affect. Middleware is, I don't know, it's different for me, from my understanding. If you can help me enlighten on how this will impact or encourage Elektrobit.
So our goal is to have our configurators and editors as low code, no code for our customers. So that's at least our intent. So when we sell our middleware products and there is an editor provided, we have the term we use is studio. That configurator / editor tool chain has to be no code, low code as much as possible. So we provide all the configurations that a customer might want to use and auto generate the source code. So that's our intent. Will we come to a point where there can be low code, no code for us? We might. We are looking forward to it. But as an organization or as a business, it is not something that will impact the way we work. Like you rightly said, safety and security aspects we will still need to figure out, but it's an interesting trend that I think we will eventually get to. But like I said, our goal is that our customers, whoever is using our studio user interfaces, should have low code, no code as much as possible. So we provide all the configurations. Okay. Maybe in time we will also get to the point that we will be working with LCNC. So
something similar to this is the ChatGPT. Companies like the simulation companies, for example, they are talking about reducing the training time. Do you also see this happening?
So I'll give you a slightly different example. So we are working with a two-wheeler company, EV company in India, and they told us that when they were beginning to use our middleware application, what they found was training their engineers to use Elektrobit user interfaces to generate middleware automatically took time. Yeah? So we are talking about between 2 and 3 months.
Okay.
Now for a standard software development cycle, you can argue 2 and 3 months is nothing. But for this particular two-wheeler OEM, they said no, 3 months was a significant investment from our side.
Okay.
Why should we do it? So here we faced the challenge that our customer said getting trained in your tool was difficult.
Okay.
Yeah? And this somehow delayed their time to market. And this is now exactly what we are trying to do internally as well, to say from a training perspective, how can we make life easier for our stakeholders, whether it is new employees coming into the organization or external, customers using our tool. And our goal is to see how we can reduce this training time. We're using everything possible, trying to also use what we can from an AI ML perspective to say how can things be done dynamically. And one example we have is we've just launched the theming engine. It's a display theming engine which has the possibility to dynamically update how you want the user interfaces to be. And we will see more products coming out of Elektrobit in that aspect, where we have the possibility to self-train the product itself, so that the end user doesn't have to spend a lot of time and effort in getting trained on how the product is to be used. So our goal is really to break that time down.
Something like do it yourself to some extent.
Exactly. Like you said, with ChatGPT, you just type in a question and the answer comes out. Maybe some part of it is not relevant, but you have all possible options.
Okay.
So our goal is not to become a ChatGPT, but get to the point where the relevant options are then taken forward by our customers.
Okay. How Elektrobit is supporting the tier ones and the vehicle manufacturers in safeguarding cyber security threats?
So before I answer that question, let me take an OEM example. So it was just announced that the Porsche Macan, the internal combustion engines, unfortunately have to be stopped because of cyber security guidelines. So they will only continue with EV because apparently the cyber security guidelines now are quite strict for vehicles that have been manufactured without software architecture in mind. It's a sad truth for this particular OEM, but this is exactly where Elektrobit comes in. So we don't just do the typical penetration detection, TARA as we call it, threat assessment and remediation analysis. We are also talking about implementing standards, so the WP 2.9, which the 29, which talks about what kind of cybersecurity standards needs to be implemented, how should the vehicle architecture itself be, not just in the car, but also the connection between the vehicle and the backend cloud server. How can the cloud server itself be made secure? So we are in that entire gamut, thanks to also our subsidiary called Argus, which is based out of Tel Aviv.
Argus,
So Argus is a cybersecurity leader. So we're trying to figure out. So from the hardware part, hardware security module, all the way till the entire value chain, what part of security could be compromised and what can we do? Also talking about design of this vehicle architecture itself in terms of making sure that you meet your architectural guidelines from day one. So cybersecurity, one of the hot topics. So recently the Porsche Macan for the internal combustion engine, it's just been announced that they will not be able to sell the vehicle because certain cybersecurity guidelines will not be met, just for their ICE engines. And this is because the software was architected at a point in time where these guidelines were not available. So examples like these will become more, let's say, prominent, or you will hear more about it. And from that perspective, what Elektrobit does is offers a plethora of offerings. First is starting from how do you design and architect a vehicle architecture which can adhere and comply to these cybersecurity standards. So given that the threats are becoming more and more real, the standards and the needs for certification and compliance are also increasing. So Elektrobit provides consulting to make sure that your setup is always adhering and complying to what might be the W29 standards. So that's one. Second is, of course, thanks to our subsidiary in Israel, Argus Cybersecurity, we provide penetration detection. Then we do TARA, which is threat assessment, remediation analysis. We identify potential loopholes, and we have our own solution, which is the hardware security module, which is the probable security breaches that you can have at the entrance of a chip. an ECU. So these are all various offerings that Elektrobit provides as part of cybersecurity. However, this is going to be an area which is probably will have the maximum potential upgrades changes, given that cybersecurity attacks will become, will get upgraded with time. So,
I think every day there is going to be something or the other.
Very true, very true. It's like antivirus on your laptop.
Absolutely, absolutely. So now we are, I think, the industry moving towards the autonomous driving and SDVs. I think recently Conti and Aurora, they announced the trucks, the level 4 trucks. So how Elektrobit is supporting in this evolution of autonomous and SDVs?
So from an SDV perspective, we are the player. So the whole concept of SDV revolves around abstracting software from hardware. So we are in that space already. And again, going back to our offerings, we talk about what can we virtualize. And when I say virtualize, I come to the point of getting your time to market to be as short as possible. From there to what offerings do you need, whether it is in the cloud, on the edge, or at a backend server. And we talk about the general offerings with regards to middleware, application, software development, and whatever. So from an SDV perspective, we provide everything. Also consulting. So we recently consulted actually an Indian four-wheeler OEM on how potentially they could make their SDV journey. So we do end-to-end from an SDV perspective. From an autonomous driving perspective, of course, we provide application development support. We also have certain products which help autonomous driving be brought to the road. So we're talking about electronic horizon, trying to identify from the mixing of electrification and ADAS. So for example, if I'm going to start driving from Bangalore to Bombay, what's my best route to be taken? Where will I have maximum challenges with regards to weather or with regards to elevation, things like that. So Elektrobit provides a lot of offerings in that space as well.
Another technology that's been talked about is quantum computing, which helps in fast forwarding even simulation. Now, how do you see this being deployed by Elektrobit?
So there are two aspects to it. One is quantum computing in the simulation space, and one is quantum computing on the vehicle itself. So I'll start with the vehicle because this is a risk for the automotive industry, and that is from the typical encryption that automotive industries use is the public-private key setup. Quantum computing will easily be able to break down such a encryption mechanism that today is happening. Also with regards to the encryption that happens between the vehicle and the cloud. So quantum computing brings in a certain element of risk, and this will be an interesting upgrade for the automotive industry. So that's one part. From a simulation perspective, this is actually a great opportunity because instead of going into the vehicle in the real world for let's say testing as an example, when it comes to autonomous driving, you have to drive millions of kilometers to identify various scenarios. Is it raining? Is it sunny? How are the roads? Do you have a deer on the street or a dog on the street? So there are multiple scenarios to be tested. With quantum computing in the simulation space, or as we call it, the virtualization space, the opportunities are enormous. So you actually can use quantum computing in the simulation world to reduce your time to market. In the real world, quantum computing creates risks which needs to be addressed by the industry.
Oh, I see. Oh, I see.
So it's a double whammy for us.
Okay.
It's an opportunity, but it's also a risk in terms of how the vehicle potentially could be hacked into. So there are cybersecurity risks coming out of quantum computing.
Can you help me understand the contributions of Elektrobit India to the global headquarters?
Multiple. So we measure ourselves in a variety of KPIs. So the first and foremost is how many global roles are located in India. And between 2022 and 2024 now, we've added some roles from a global perspective. That's one. Second, what kind of ownership does the site have? And since Elektrobit is part products and part services organization, from a product perspective, we are actually quite proud that we've been able to take more ownership. So we are talking about, for example, one area where we want to take complete ownership is the porting area. So middleware being ported into various hardwares that potentially our customers will use. So that's an area that we really want to completely own from India, and this is a space where we've actually grown quite a bit in terms of ownership. So the vertical integration ownership. From a services perspective, we've had actually successes in areas which come as a surprise. So we've been able to install a hardware practice. We've been able to support programs completely from India, which we thought weren't possible in the past. So these are the areas where we are supporting. We are also running programs where Indian employees are leading this from India. So one example is we had a cultural ambassador which runs a mindset change for the organization, and that was run by somebody in India. So we have a variety of aspects where we are, let's call it, on the critical path or complete ownership of roles that we can play from India. I must take this opportunity to thank our global leadership also for the support. So for example, the complete strategy of the organization is run from India. So that's a huge amount of trust that they place on this site.
More responsibilities now.
More responsibilities, yeah.
Okay. You spoke about the new products and the new product related launches in 2024. Can you indicate a little bit about it?
Absolutely. So the most talked about portfolio item for us is of course we call it Linux in safety applications. So there is this some kind of a romance that automotive industry has had with open source for a while. Yeah. So it's a love and hate relationship. So you can argue that that's the best thing that can happen, or you can say that's the riskiest thing item in the technology value chain. So given this, we said, what can Elektrobit do in the open source space? And we said, let's figure out if we can launch Linux, which is open source. However, we can also try to bring it to safety applications under a certain context. Okay. So that's one of our biggest launches. So we've already launched it, and we are now trying to identify what kind of market fit do we need to bring in. We are fully aware that it is not just a product, it is potentially it is a solution. So customers will need to understand how do they, for example, replace a competitor today with Linux in safety applications from Elektrobit. So that's one. The second space we are really excited about is we are now trying to integrate all our products, make it interoperable, so that all of them can be used over cloud. So, I mean, the automotive industry has not been cloud savvy for a while, and instead of individual installations, we are talking about what developments can we do. Again, we are bringing our services and products together because that is our value proposition. The third thing that we want to talk about a lot, of course, is virtualization. So we have a virtualization portfolio, and with virtualization, we don't just mean virtualizing an ECU. We're talking about potentially a system, hopefully in the future a vehicle. We're also talking about software lifecycle management. So one of the key things that will happen with the advent of software-defined vehicles is, how does a manufacturer manage software versions in one car, in one region, across the planet, and how do you know that the end user, the vehicle and the end user are safe with regards to the various software upgrades that might be necessary. So it's a bit like we get our reminders on the phone saying please upgrade your. So I don't know if you've ever had a challenge, but last weekend I had this problem that as it was upgrading, my phone went blank, and for the first time in almost 10 years, I just didn't know what to do. And you just have that one device, right? You cannot afford to have that in a car. At what point in time do you say that the existing software is not safe, is not secure? So these are all decisions that the OEM has to take. Involves a lot of data analytics, involves a lot of data gathering, and then you take the decision based on does the end user have to pay? Does the end user have the connectivity at that point in time to make an upgrade? So there are lots of decision factors based on which, let's say, the software lifecycle itself can be managed, as we call it. So this is another exciting area that we will be part of. Cybersecurity comes as part of this. What do you want the end customer to pay? What do you need mandatorily in the car? This is one. And then we are talking about partner self-certification. So a lot of the automotive software today could also be implemented by standard services organizations. Yeah? Why should only an automotive company be able to do this? So we are fully aware that you will have IT players, tech giants, even services companies from India wanting to a certain part of this pie, and we are saying this will be inevitable. So we are talking about certification programs that potentially the entire industry might benefit. So this is, let's say, a brief preview of or a peek into what we want to bring in 2024.
Yeah. Great. You recently opened an office in Cochin. How is it doing? And then what are your plans?
So Kochi, to be honest, so we started it as an extended working space. We wanted to see how the market outside Bangalore is. So Bangalore is great for talent. Bangalore is also difficult in terms of retention of talent. And what happens is, if you want to take up greater responsibilities within the organization, especially when it comes to product development, you need to have people growing vertically. India is known for people to move across topics. Yeah? So to try and see if we can build something beyond what we already have, we said let's look at Kochi. So we went through an analysis phase also with an external consultant, and we said Kochi might be the right space. So we're looking at Kochi as, so we have a certain core competence that we want to build in it. We are reasonably successful already, and we think that we can grow quite a bit. So we have some ambitious targets, not just from headcount, but also from delivery responsibility and competence build up for us. We have not yet taken the approvals, but I would really like to believe that Kochi will be a permanent site for us in the near future. I think these are exciting times for Elektrobit, especially with regards to Kochi. The place is brilliant. You have access to local talent quite a bit. And the interesting part was, I mean, what I learned last year was you have a lot of startups. So software startups, which I really was not aware of. So yeah, it is one of our most important things to attain in 2024.
What do you want to achieve in the next 5 years?
So as Elektrobit, we want to make sure that our market share grows. So that's really our strategic intent. So we want to make sure that the total addressable market that Elektrobit takes care of today grows, which means that, of course, we need to get better internally. So move away from traditional automotive software standard practices to, let's say, the cloud way of working, if I can put it that way. Second is we want to, in a controlled, expansive way, talk about our portfolio, what we can do in terms of not just four-wheeler manufacturers, but also two-wheeler manufacturers. So what can we do for niche spaces, as we call it. And last but not the least, try to identify what kind of customers do we want to serve. At the moment, we have, at least in India, we have this image of Elektrobit will take care of a wide variety of the market. We want to come to the point where we identify this is the area that we want to be in. So we have the analysis work done. In 5 years, I am hoping that we've breached a certain financial target that we have in mind. We have a certain percentage of the market share, and I would like every vehicle that comes out on the road to have an Elektrobit contribution in terms of software, either in the car or in terms of bringing the software into the car. So that's at least our target from an organizational perspective. From an India perspective, I would love for India to play a role in all critical parts of software delivery, whether it is products or services from India. I think we have the talent. We just need to come to the point where we start delivering. So that's at least what we intend to do. And if we can scale there, growth will come naturally. So I'm not really too bothered about headcount and all that. That's an outcome for me. If we can deliver from India greater responsibility, show value, the rest will follow through.
Satish, it was wonderful talking to you. Thank you so much for talking to Mobility Conversations. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks again.